You're all very welcome back to the Celtic Soul Podcast with me, Andrew Milne. Today my guest will be Celtic Supporters Liaison Officer John Paul Taylor. Before we kick off today, I would like to dedicate the episode of the podcast to an old pal, David Leslie, who died suddenly last Sunday, and we said our last goodbye yesterday. Everton was his team and Trenchtown was his band. So folks, enjoy yourself, it's later than you think. I'd like to say thanks to BC Services Tax Consultants for their support once again in sponsoring this episode of the podcast. If you would like to become a sponsor, please get in contact by email info@celticfanzine.com, on social media or through the website. Thanks for your continued support. Has Twitter become toxic? Are some Celtic fans waiting to post negatively with each Neil Lennon team selection once it has been announced? Everyone is entitled to an opinion, I think we all agree. But the mainstream media is no friend to Celtic fans, and they are creating negative headlines by our own negativity, simply by picking up on loose-lip comments by a section of our fans. Some of our own independent fan media seems happy to follow the laptop loyal by quoting the tabloids, including The Sun, in articles with sensationalised headlines. The Sun, the biggest chip rapper of them all, please boycott. Fanzines were created to give fans an alternative voice from the newspapers and the official club publications, long before selfies, high-speed Wi-Fi and social media. But now, some of the so-called alternative media has become part of the mainstream. There is plenty of real quality fan media out there for Celtic fans on all platforms, from fanzines to podcasts, on a daily basis. But be careful, there are wolves out there in hoop clothing who really would prefer if they were part of the mainstream media. Last night may not have been pretty to watch. We had plenty of possession and little chances. But when you look down the other end of the pitch, our goalkeeper Barkas had a very easy night. The bus was parked and it was Neil Lennon's substitutions who combined to secure the win and ensure that we didn't go into extra time. I for one jumped off the sofa while Elanusi hit the back of the net. A result in a game that takes us to Sarajevo next week, when I'm sure the team will be announced and we'll have the Toxic on Twitter once again. After the game, I switched off the phone after a few minutes on social media and watched a documentary. And I'll tell you one thing, I'm glad I did. And I might just do the same, win, lose or draw against Hibs on Sunday. Stay faithful through and through, folks. John Paul Taylor is the Celtic Supporters Liaison Officer after spending a number of years in the ticket office at the club. He is a born and bred Glasgow boy. Hello JP, you're very welcome to the Celtic Soul Podcast. It seems like a long time since we enjoyed a pint in Philadelphia back in February when we chatted at Celtic AM as guests of the Ploughboys Celtic Supporters Club at the Philly Failure.
Yeah, God, it does seem now, Andrew, it's a long time ago, and who would have thought then what we were going to face in the coming months? So I just wish we could get back to those days as quickly as possible. But yeah, it's been a difficult few months, that's for sure.
Now, under normal circumstances, you would have arrived back from Latvia today, maybe in the early hours of this morning, after dealing with numerous ticket issues and away day problems at the turnstiles where I normally meet you. I'd also be arriving home today at some stage, normally shattered, although depending on how much I enjoyed myself, I'm getting a little older now, I'm not able to keep up with the young bucks. But instead, I was up at dawn watching snippets of last night's game. As you said, we're living in strange times and we all can't wait to get back to see Celtic.
Yeah, listen, absolutely. I think that's the thing at the moment, is that we're just, everybody's desperate to get back to the games. Last night, obviously, was a very different experience in the same way that we had in other games away from home where you're normally there. But watching the game last night at home on TV, it just reminds you of, all the good times that we've had and, how much we enjoy going to follow the club, whether it's in Scotland or whether it's abroad, and not being able to do that at the moment it's a big loss. It's a big loss to everybody that goes to see Celtic week in and week out, and it's really only hitting home, I guess, now when, as you say, we had the game in Latvia last night and you're sitting in the house watching it, when you know that under normal circumstances you would have been there, and yeah, no doubt would have dealt with a few different problems on the night, which we have done for years. But always happy to do it, and it's such a shame that we can't get to the games at the moment.
Yeah, it was good to see a couple of the Riga fans getting to see the game on top of the double-decker buses.
Do you know, I like that. I mean, I know people maybe look at it and say, well, that's not fair or one thing or another, but I like the fact that they did it, and I like the fact that they got behind their team, and maybe a different story we hadn't gone through, but I just liked the fact that they were passionate about it, and they had their drums going, and they were getting the opportunity to back their team. So fair play to them, and it's not something that naturally we could encourage. Obviously, we're very much at the point where we're asking people not to come to the stadium and not to gather at the stadium. But different countries have got different rules and situations and whatever. So fair play to them for doing it. But I just, I'm looking forward to the day when we can get people back into the stadium and we can all get back to doing what we've been doing over the years and enjoy it without any conditions placed upon it.
Yeah, when I switched on the TV last night, I just get in for kickoff and I was going, wow, how are they creating that noise? That's brilliant. Like, and then it took a few minutes before the camera panned me, and I thought, oh, brilliant. And, as a fan, I think, now there you go. That brings new meaning to safe standing.
Absolutely. And listen, you've got to admire their ingenuity. And as I say, it's not something we could encourage. But fair play to them. They did it and they backed their team, and that's what you want to see. Fans getting back to supporting their team.
Yeah. Like they had a good opportunity, but no stand behind the goals.
Yeah.
I presume it was a car park. But Latvia is on the green list in Ireland. But the only thing is they won't let us in. We have to wait for 2 weeks. We had them in Dover. But I was jealous of them. But I did think they brought something to the game, and I think they brought something to the Celtic players as well. It wasn't a vintage performance, but look, when teams are going to park the bus against you, you need to be patient. And I think when Elanusi came off the bench, Frimpong, another sub to come on, I think the two boys done brilliant, and we got the win, and we move on.
Exactly. I mean, it was a frustrating game, and I no doubt everybody watching it felt the same way. You're thinking after first 10, 15 minutes, get a goal, settle us down. 20, 25 minutes, half an hour, you're thinking, just get a goal before half time, settle us down. First 15 minutes of the second half, just get the goal. And the longer it goes on, and you just, you start to worry. You worry about different scenarios, a late free kick or a late penalty even, or just anything. Things like this can go wrong, but it is about being patient. And they did park the bus, to be fair. It was a bit like going to Livingston or going to Hamilton or going to some of the teams, Kilmarnock recently as well, where you've got to try and break teams down. And the game lasts for 90 minutes, and it took 90 minutes to get the goal, but thankfully we did. And we move on. But we go through to play Sarajevo next week, a place that we had a good result last year. So hopefully we can get through that one and get into the group stages. And a big game here on Sunday against Hibs. But the main thing is we won the game. Maybe it wasn't pretty, but we won the game. And you say we've got to be patient. There has been plenty of times here. I mean, even last season against Hamilton, when Bruni get the winner in the 93rd, 94th minute, sometimes you just need to stick with it. And thankfully the goal came last night. So just pleased to be through and into the next round.
Yeah, but another way of looking at it is that, Barkas won't have an easier game. He'd very little to do with it. You never thought they were really going to score. That was the thing. You couldn't see us really conceding a goal. It was going to be something potentially of our own making, or a real freak scenario for us to lose the goal, because they weren't coming forward or cutting us open or anything. It was just about us putting forward wave after wave of attack and trying to find a way where we could cut through them. And thankfully Elanusi gets on the end of a great cutback from Frimpong. But I thought overall, we watched 70-80% of the play. I didn't think we were really going to lose, but it wasn't pretty. And I have to say that when the goal did come in, it was a massive relief. But we got there. Yeah, it sure was. Now listen, I'm gonna move backwards now, because I was in Thailand when word filtered through that the Rangers game was cancelled. Can you just take us through when the news filtered back into the office then, that the game was off, and soon after that we were in lockdown? How was your role handled? Because obviously you're the connection for us with the club, because we don't get to speak to board members. The only time we probably see them is at a game or the AGM. So how difficult was it, firstly, for you to deal with? And did you know early on that the season was going to finish? It wasn't just a couple of games. Not initially, no. Not initially. Obviously, it had been building over the course of the week. Liverpool had played Atletico Madrid, and then I think Leverkusen were here in Glasgow on the Thursday night. And there was a lot of talk at that point about COVID spreading across Europe and, foreign fans coming in, particularly at that time. Both those countries were experiencing high numbers in terms of the virus.
And then there was suggestions, that this was going to impact us in the UK, it was going to impact us in Scotland, and things were going to change. But we're still unclear. I mean, right up until Friday lunchtime, it was still the usual calls galore about who's got a ticket, who's not got a ticket, are there any spare tickets, can you get a ticket? And, that was still all going on in the Friday morning. At that point, there was a few mutterings to say it's going to be played, but it's going to be behind closed doors. But even at that, you were still thinking to yourself, it's late in the day, surely we'll get the game on at the weekend. I don't think any has anticipated the seriousness of the situation, but you still thought you get the game on at the weekend, maybe get a chance to review it next week. Hopefully, if we can go and win the game at the weekend, I think we would have been 16 points clear maybe at that point. And then you start to think, well, we look uncatchable. We probably were uncatchable anyway at that point. But we didn't really see the season ending. And then it, kind of early afternoon, I think it broke on the BBC that the government had decided just to postpone the game. So that was fine. So you're like, right, okay, that's a blow. And then obviously you've got to try and communicate that to people, but people try to process it themselves and try to understand what was going on. And the rest of the afternoon was really just it was about, what did this all mean? What was it going to mean in the long term for us? Was the game going to be played? Would we get back to going to games? Just a lot of uncertainty, to be honest with you. And I can still remember the Friday night, going home on the Friday night and being naturally quite upset with the whole thing, because a lot of work goes into, the planning and preparation for the game. As I say, the whole ticket side is always a major issue, and it does take a bit out of you, and you just kind of felt really deflated, because I really fancied us to win the game as well. So I felt really disappointed by all of that. And then you come to work on Monday wondering what's going to be going on. And, from there on in, it's just all of this whole situation that none of us have ever encountered before. You're not sure how to deal with it. You're not sure how to process it. And then, do you come to work? Do you not come to work? We were advised not to go to work initially. So we then, after a few days, we were all informed that it's best if we don't come to work. And that's kind of where it got to. And then it became quite apparent that the game the following week, which from memory maybe was Ross County. I think it was Ross County. But anyway, the game the following week, that wasn't going to take place either. And then you just started to get a sense, this is going to go the wrong way here. And then obviously the government announced the lockdown and then the furlough scheme, and we then had to inform the staff who were going to be furloughed that they were going to be furloughed. So some people were, some of us weren't furloughed, and it just became a very surreal time. And obviously, like us, for the rest of the people, the rest of the population, a particularly unpleasant time as well. But from a personal perspective, then I've just, I kept working, and I've worked every day, and initially working from home, and then bit by bit coming into work every so often, just because there's things that you need to get, there's files that you need to access, and then you want to start be part of the process to think about how we get fans back, how do we get fans back safely. So you're contributing to all of those things that were taking place over the summer in terms of the sales campaign for season tickets as well, and the live stream and all of that, and what that looks like. So it turned out to be quite a busy summer for me, but you're working on it largely in isolation. So it's not great because there's very few people in and around the building. So it's just not a very pleasant time, to be honest with you. And obviously trying to allay the fears and provide supporters with information as best you can. Not all of it being, everything that people wanted to hear. But you've got to try and be as honest as you can with people, and try and give them as much clarity around the situation as possible. And that was really what the summer looked like for me on a daily basis.
Yeah, as you said there, the league was called off. I think it was a bit surreal, but it was a nice moment as well when Celtic were crowned champions. And the nine in a row was equalled. Yeah,
that was probably the highlight. Obviously, I mean, you didn't want it to end the way that it did, but that wasn't our fault, and I think we deserved to win the title. We were 13 points clear, 8 games to go. I don't think we would have been caught, and I think most people who know and understand Scottish football and appreciate we wouldn't have been caught either. So we did deserve to win the title, and those few days were good. As I say, there weren't many people in and around the stadium at the time, and it just the way things fell at the time. they wanted to try and get some footage of some of the boys. Some of the boys said they wanted to get the trophy and whatever. And because I was me and one of the other guys, Danny, that was in, we were the only people kicking about. We got the job of taking the trophy around a couple of the lads, and it was good. It was good. That side of it was actually quite good. A bit unexpected and not what we normally do, but as I say, you were trying to fill in and help out, and everybody was trying to plug different gaps because there was no other real staff around that would normally carry out these jobs. So we got a couple of days of duking about and taking the trophy to quite a few of the first team players, which was good. It was good, that respect, and you would get a chance to get a wee chat with the boys and stuff. So that was probably the highlight of it. And then that weekend we had a wee family party in the house. So no, that was probably the best part of it, to be honest with you. But I would have liked to have got a proper celebration where we won it on the park and the fans could have been part of that, and we could have all enjoyed it, whether it was a home game or away game. But we could have enjoyed it in the way that we have done in the previous years. But sadly, it wasn't to be this time.
Look, it must have been great to get a natter with the players, but it's. I know from my own point of view, this has been very mentally challenging, to try and keep busy and to try and keep focused when normally you have something to look forward to. And as the weeks and the months went on, there was very little to look forward to. You're looking forward to the pub opening or a beer garden opening, stuff that you would have took for granted on a daily basis. But then the headache started for fans, but it also started for you because first of all we had season book refunds, then we had applications for season books, then we had the virtual season ticket, and then we had the realism that we weren't getting back into the stadium. A lot of us had thought, we'd said, well, if we get back in by the Rangers game, we'll be happy. That doesn't look like happening. How difficult has it been, firstly, for you to digest all this and try to work as normally as possible? Because these are extraordinary circumstances.
Yeah. To be honest with you, it's been very hard. It's been very, very hard. I mean, you're always wary about how you put it across, because people have had really difficult times and a lot of people have invested a lot of money in the club. So you don't want to come across as, it's been hard for me, but it's not been hard for anybody else. It's been difficult for everybody. But just from a personal perspective, it's been difficult because, as I say, we largely working in isolation. We work in an office where, in some cases, some days there'd be 16, 17, 18 people. And in most cases throughout the summer, I was the only person in that office. And as you say, there was different challenges in terms of the refunds process, the season ticket package, what it would look like, and then the live streams, the virtual season ticket. And it's natural. People want to know what they're getting. People want to know what they're investing in. They want to know if it's realistic for them to be coming back to Celtic Park anytime soon. Will it be September? Will it be November? Will it be next year? And these are all fair questions. And I need to try and answer those as honestly as I possibly can. But you don't always know how things are going to turn out. You don't know how things are going to go. And responses that you gave to people in May, in June, in July probably look quite different to what they would maybe be now, just simply because we would have hoped that we would have moved a bit further on, but we haven't really moved that much. I mean, I think now, obviously, we've come out of lockdown and people have had a bit of freedom again and they're getting to socialise to an extent, but they can't go to football. And that for us is obviously the key driver. We need to try and get people back to matches, and I don't know when that's going to be. And I can understand people being frustrated because they want to get to the match. There's some families have spent an awful lot of money backing the team, and from a club perspective, everybody appreciates the investment and the sacrifices people have made to back Celtic and hopefully deliver the 10. But it's been a hard summer. It's been a long summer. Most of us we've not taken any breaks or anything either, so we've been kind of at it every day. And listen, I'm not saying that so that people should feel sorry for us, not in the slightest. It's we're happy to be working and doing the best that we can, but it's been tough. It's not been an easy summer.
Now you're in the stadium as we chat now, like a place we dream of getting back and probably took for granted for so many years. Have you access on match days? Can you get to see the games?
So on a match day, I come in on a match day mostly. I kind of do my social stuff and emails and whatever and pick up. And then I think there was kind of generally felt it might be an idea for me just to be around on match day, just in the event, that we do get people gathering or whatever, that you can perhaps, you manage that piece by maybe speaking and having a chat with people if they do turn up, because the last thing we need is for people to gather at the stadium. We don't want to put any hindrances in the way of getting people back as soon as we possibly can. So from that perspective, I come in on a match day. It's never been a problem, not had any issues at all, and it's been brilliant that the fans have actually, they've stuck to it and they've not come down to the stadium, which has been great. And then what I'll do is, like, when the match kicks off, I'll maybe get a chance to nip out and see a bit of it, and then just shoot back up the road again. So I'm seeing bits and pieces, to be honest with you, but it's not the same. It's not like going to football in the way that we have done over the years. You're not with your pals, you're not with your friends, you're not with anybody really. If you can manage to get in, you've seen a wee bit of the game, you're sitting on your own, and then you're juking off again. So it's not great, but I appreciate that it's a bit more than everyone else is getting at the moment. So it's a good wee opportunity, but it's not the same.
But what we're getting at the moment is we're obviously getting the build up to the game. We're getting whatever pundits are chatting, and then we're getting the game, and then we're getting the player and the manager's interview maybe after the game. But normal match day, we'd see the team arriving, we could have a point or whatever. But it's just, can you just tell the listeners, like is match day preparation the same for the players, because we've no access to players or the manager, or has it just completely changed?
It's completely changed, Andrew. It's just nothing like what a normal match day would be now. So the way that it operates is there's a green zone, an amber zone, and a red zone. And the red zone is essentially for players and officials only. So no one really gets near the red zone. So the team come into the stadium now via the Clyde Gateway, and then they're into a secure area. It's all fenced off. Come in through gate 2, along trackside, into the changing rooms, changed, back out, do a bit of warm up, back in, changed, back in, play the game, and then pretty much away after that. They still go hotel beforehand, as far as I'm aware. So they'll do their kind of pre-match, but it's very different. There's no real mixing. If you're in, so for example, if I was in, I would be in the amber area, and you're not mixing really with anyone. You're just in. You've got your mask on in the stadium. Even moving around the offices, obviously we're masked up as well. So, but you don't really see anyone. There's not really many people around. So it's, again, you're kind of like really working in isolation. And then, as I say, it's, full time. It's just everybody's gone. The place can be empty within like 15, 20 minutes, half an hour. There's nobody about again. It's very different, very surreal, and it's, I suppose in some respects, it's a bit like when you played football yourself. Is when you're younger, you turn up, you see, you go to the changing rooms, you get changed, you play the game, and then you get the bus home, and that's kind of it. There's no niceties about it really. It's just get them in the secure area, they stay in the red zone, everybody else is in the amber zone, and there's no mixing, and then afterwards you just straight away. So it really is quite different.
Thanks for sharing that, because I feel that because we're so detached from the players, I truly believe that they have the same mental problems we have with life because of the lockdown. And okay, they can go to work, but so can a lot of people, and they're tested. Like, just for me to get into my office, like every day we have to go through, we have camera, we have temperature checks, and we're only a small thing, and it is a pain in the ass, but it's something that has to be done. But I truly believe, and I think maybe some fans who are very critical of every minor movement at the club maybe need to take a step back, because we are in strange times, and this will be affecting everybody, no matter whether they're rich or famous. It's going to affect everyone. Yeah,
it is so different. And as you say, when we come into the stadium, it's temperature checks, it's hand sanitising, it's masks on, and that's the same for the players. When the players arrive, the players get tested in Lennoxtown 2 or 3 times a week. They're in a secure bubble. We've got a COVID officer, and there's no mixing. There is genuinely no mixing at all. The football department, players, etc., first team, are contained within Lennoxtown, and they do what they do on a daily basis, their training, etc. Come to the stadium in match day, they're brought in a secure area, And as I say, they don't mix with anyone. No one mixes with them. If you go in the red zone, well, you can't get in the red zone. If you're in the red zone and you come out the red zone, you can't get back into the red zone. There's protocols in place which make everything so different, and it must have an impact on them. It's so different from what they'd have been used to, in particular the boys that have been here for a long time as well, that would know the daily, the match day routine and coming up Celtic Way and having the fans there and getting the backing and all of that. It's none of that at all. It's surreal. The team bus, when it comes in, there's no one there to greet it. There's no fans there to cheer them on, and that's the way it needs to be. It needs to remain that way. But it must have an effect on them. I'm sure it does.
Now you attended the away game in Ross County. 300 fans in for the exercise. All I've heard about Ross County is good things about how the club is run. Can you just let the listeners into your experience of the game? It didn't look very lively, but it was good to see fans back in the stadium.
Yeah, I mean, that was another area I was quite fortunate, because they were doing the test then. We felt it would have been beneficial, to go up to observe it and see what was happening. And as a consequence of that, took a drive up to watch what they were doing, how they were doing it. So what they did was that they had fans queuing at the ticket office to pick up their tickets, and once they had done that, then they formed another queue, which would have been to get a temperature taken to enter the footprint almost of the stadium behind the goals at the jail end. And then as they went through there, after they provided their ticket and their ID, got the temperature check, they then moved round. They didn't use turnstiles. They used the big open, or the exit gates, to bring people in. There was another check at that point. There was hand sanitising units. And then they went into the stadium. They had a single seat. They didn't do family groups or anything. So they kept everything as single individuals, spaced out 2 metres, no catering facilities. Toilets was one in, one out. So it was generally quite big queues. They managed it, really pretty well, to be honest with you. And I suppose in some respects the result, whilst it was great for us, it wasn't great for them. And I think probably that impacted on their ability to create an atmosphere and get behind their team, because when you're consistently behind in the game, it's difficult. But they were a very compliant crowd. They did what they were asked. They kept their masks on. They didn't sing. They didn't shout. They applauded when necessary. They didn't stand up. And I think from Ross County's perspective, it probably worked great. I think probably from government perspective, it probably worked great. But it wasn't football in the way that we would know and understand football and attend football. It was very sanitised. It was like something from Westworld or something. It just, it didn't feel quite right. But fair play to them for doing it, and it was good to see fans in the stadium. But I don't know if it was, a real true representation of what you would get on a match day. For us on a match day, we've got young and old, we've got different types of fans, we've got male and female, we've got family groups, we've got a really diverse group of supporters. And I thought on the day it was predominantly male, 40, 50, 60 years of age, probably a sample group who you knew would have been very compliant. And that was probably great for Ross County, and it worked well, and it was nice to see fans back in the stadium. But I don't know if it was a real true representation of a match day. I think for us, we've got a much bigger stadium, and I would like to think that we could get maybe a more diverse group if we were bringing people in. But I think there's absolutely no doubt that we could do what Ross County did on the day very safely. I think we could do that without any real problems. So that's what we just need to keep working towards.
Now, was there any truth in the rumour that you pulled into a garage on the way to Dingwall, and when you heard a noise in your boot and you opened the boot and Paul the Tomb was stowed away in your boot?
No, before I left, I texted him to make sure that he was at his work. I thought he might have been clinging onto the car underneath.
It's funny, I woke early that morning, as I do most mornings these days, and he was banging on about how he was missing the game because he had to go to work at 6 a.m. But
seen that, to be honest with you, and I was like, right, okay, that's fine, that's good. So I know that he's not going to be underneath the car. But no, listen, it's it was funny driving up. I spoke to a couple of boys on the way up that I'd phoned from the car and stuff, just to say that I'd been getting up to the game kind of thing, and we were talking about just how much you wish the rest of the boys were there, and it's just not the same. It's not the same, and it's being able to get to the games occasionally is good, but I actually feel, at times you feel a wee bit kind of bad, a wee bit guilty about it, because, you don't really feel as if, I wouldn't say it's not, you don't feel right, but you just wish other people were there, so don't make a big thing about it. If you get the chance to nip into a game, you nip in and nip out and just keep it to yourself.
Yeah. No, it's been great to get a take on someone that's in and around the park, because, as I said, we're not getting too much, and there's not too many people around the park. So it was great to get an insight into it. I think maybe the Ross County gave us a bit of false hope, because with the COVID situation, it seems to change on a daily and a weekly basis. We're going backwards here in Ireland, it would seem. And it just, Donegal closed down, last night. They're gone into, I think it's locked down for 3 weeks. So, it's difficult for everybody. As I said, it's been brilliant to chat. But before we wrap up, because I know you have a busy day there sorting all the away tickets out.
Yeah.
Can you just take the listeners back to your formative years and let us into your Celtic soul? Who's John Paul Taylor? What games or period in time stick out in your memory? Is there a back catalogue of music to go along with these memories and moments?
I suppose. I mean, so from my own perspective, I've been coming here since 19. I still can't decide if it's 71 or 72, but yeah, I've been coming here quite a long time. And then, obviously, as you touched on earlier on, I had my time in the ticket office when I started working with the club in October '93. I've been coming to see Celtic my entire life, home and away, with various different members of families and friends and whatever. And then, as you say, fortunate enough to get the chance to come and work here. And apart from a spell, 2008, 2013, I think I'm now 22 or 23 years I've spent working at the club. So yeah, it means an awful lot to me. And I think the roles that I've kind of held at the club, I've always tried my best to help as many fans as I possibly can, and I'll keep doing that. And I'll keep, trying to be, as honest as I possibly can with people and be straight with people. And we'll see where it takes us. But for me, in terms of games, my first European game was Jush Pestosa at Celtic Park when we drew 1-1. I think Lou Macari scored by a header. So that sticks out. I used to love the European games, and I used to come with my dad. I used to love coming to the European games with my dad. They were just always special nights for me. I remember Real Madrid was a big one for us. I remember Ajax was a big one for us as well. And we had a number of great times at the European games. I remember going to Madrid with my dad in 1980, my first European away game, which was a big thing in those days. And then the 4-2 game, 1979, when we won the league with 10 men, was probably my favourite ever game. The Riot Cup final, 1980, I was at that. That was my scariest ever game, but it was still good to win it. And there's been umpteen, to be honest with you, over the years. Doing the treble with Martin, again, the game against Hibs to win the treble was brilliant. Porto, or not so much Porto, but Boa Vista, when we qualified for the UEFA Cup final, was an amazing night as well for us. Seville was an experience, from start to finish, albeit we didn't get the result that we wanted, but, the whole carnival around it and the whole circus around tickets, etc., will live with me forever. And then obviously we've moved on now to get to the point where we've done 9 for the second time. We've been going for 10 for the second time. And it just feels a wee bit flat, from that perspective, that we're not doing it in the way that we would normally like to do it and like to enjoy it. But there's been an awful lot of great times. My first Scottish Cup final against Hibs in 1972, we beat Hibs 6-1. That was another great game that sticks out in my memory as well. So there's been a lot. The Centenary Cup final, another amazing day again, typical Celtic day where you don't think we're going to do it. The Invincible Cup final, you don't think we're going to do it. Hearts for the treble, we go behind, you don't think we're going to do it. And these are the things that make Celtic great, isn't it? And even last night, to an extent, there's points where you think we're not going to do it, but somehow we just, we find a way. It's not always pretty, but they give us some great memories and some great times with our friends and our families, and hopefully they'll come back again soon. The sooner the better, to be honest with you. But that's kind of been a wee snapshot in my Celtic life, to be honest with you. And it's great to still be here and still be part of it, but I just wish it was under different circumstances at the moment. I wish we could get people back and we could get through this crisis as quickly as we possibly can and get life back to normal. Music, yeah, there's a soundtrack all the way through that, probably a lot of Britpop, a lot of Oasis in there, bit of Stone Roses. I think one of the other shows I did as well, I alluded to my love of jazz. So you've got a bit of jazz in there, a bit of Miles Davis, all sorts really, all sorts. Just kind of go with the flow in many respects.
Yeah, well, I suppose if you've got Oasis, you've got to roll with it, especially at the moment.
We do need to roll with it, exactly. We need to roll with it, and we need to try and stay as positive as we possibly can. Hopefully the games will continue. Hopefully the team will keep winning. Hopefully science will find a way to try and get us through this difficult time. And I hope that soon we can start to see people coming back, even if it's only for test events. Initially people talking about few hundred coming in or 1,000, or your life will be hell when you try and pick the people that have to come in and stuff. See, as it stands right now, I'd be happy to take it. I'd be happy to take the grief that will come with that, just to get people back in, just so that we could see some green shoots and start thinking, you know what, we're on the way back. We're on the road to recovery. So if it means a lot of earache and a lot of grief because someone got picked and someone else didn't, I'd be happy to take it right now just to get people back.
Yeah, wouldn't we all? JP, it's always been a pleasure to chat to you. I'd just like to thank you for the time you had to take out to come to the Celtic AM events. We always get you on early because you have to get up the park, and we normally get you in when there is something maybe that needs to be answered or discussed or is being over discussed on social media without any facts. So I thank you for that. Normally when we have someone in here, we delve into the Celtic soul. We didn't really get that with you today, so hopefully we'll get you back to talk about Celtic, but I thought it was important with the lack of, I suppose, clarity coming out from all walks of life, and including Scottish football, that we just got someone on that's inside the stadium and can just give us a little bit of what it's like for everyday life in the park, because I think people think that the players are immune to this and they just get on with their normal lives, but they don't.
Well, not at all.
So thank you very much for that. But I will have to get you on again because I want to hear about this love of jazz and some of them games. Some of the games that you mentioned there, Eddie. I think George McCluskey played his part in all those games.
He certainly did. George was one of my heroes when I was a kid. I used to have a badge with George on it. George was one of my big heroes, and I think I've told him that a few times as well. Not that he doesn't like hearing it, he loves hearing it.
Oh, he loves hearing it, yeah. He's an ex-player. They all have egos.
Absolutely.
Well, listen, I can't wait to chat again, and hopefully...
Yeah, likewise.
Hopefully I'm going to be giving you a few headaches looking for tickets and answers to why we didn't get tickets for our club, because
sooner the better.
Wouldn't it be great to be back travelling? But just before you go, I think there's a possibility we can get back into Celtic Park at some stage this season, but there's definitely no chance of us getting an away day, is there?
It's one of them you would never want to, never say never type of thing, and I dare say, it's the government will dependent on that. I can only offer what I think is a personal opinion. If you're saying to me right now, there's a gun at your head, what do you think? Are we going to get an away game this season? I don't see it happening. It's not an official line, and it's not a club line, and it's not a government line, but it's just what I think personally. I'd be surprised if we got to an away game this season.
Well, as I said, JP, thanks very much for your time. As always, keep the faith, stay safe, and hopefully we'll talk soon.
Likewise, thanks a lot for having me on, Andrew, and always delighted to have it, to come on and to do it. So hopefully we'll speak again soon.
Cheers, pal.
Keep well, mate. Thank you.
It was great to chat to JP again. I look forward to the day that his head is getting wrecked about tickets, away trips, lateral movement, and issues at turnstiles. Well, folks, once again, I'd like to thank you all for listening. Just a reminder that More Than 90 Minutes issue 110 is now on sale, and with no match day sales, we are relying on fans buying the digital or print copy and are overwhelmed by the support you have given us so far to keep the fanzine going through these tough times. As always, thanks to my good pal Ronan McQuillan for producing the show. And if you like what we're doing and you would like to support us, you can contact us at CelticFanzine.com, where you can become a member, you can subscribe, you can buy, or you can donate for the price of a pint. And I'd like to thank everyone who has so far. The support is much appreciated. Don't forget you can download our free app and you'll have access to all our podcasts, articles, daily news, video content. I'd like to say our upcoming events, but they're on hold. The fanzine and our online shop, all at the touch of a button on your phone or tablet. All episodes of the podcast are now available on most platforms, the latest being Speaker, so hit that subscribe or follow button so you never miss an episode. You can also access the podcast instantly on our Instagram story, Celtic Fanzine, and we would also appreciate if you could visit our YouTube channel, Celtic Fanzine TV, and hit the subscribe button. Thanks again to our episode sponsor, Brian Cunningham of BC Services, who has supported us from day one. If your business or Celtic Supporters Club are enjoying the podcast and would like to sponsor us in some way, please email us at info@celticfanzine.com, or as normal, you can contact us through the website or message us on social media. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Facebook or Twitter. Keep the comments coming in and let us know what guests you would like us to get in the show, and keep us posted on any Celtic information or Celtic stories you have that might be of interest to the listeners. We are back on Tuesday with episode 31, when we will have another guest opening up the Celtic Soul to us. Enjoy the weekend, folks. Hibs took points off Rangers on Sunday, so it's going to be a tough test for us this Sunday. I won't be panicking, however, when the manager picks the starting 11. I don't expect Hibs to park the bus, so it should be a more open game than we've had recently, a bit maybe like the Ross County game. And if not, I'll be on Twitter ranting and raving at someone. Only joking. I think I'll just go for a pint after the game and debate it out with the boys like we used to before social media took over our lives. So folks, stay tuned, stay safe and keep the faith. Folks, I'll leave you with this tune for Lezo, who's going up to do a big gig in the sky. Rest in peace, pal.